potentially like in a naive way, I thought hyperbitcoinization was right around the corner. Like the world is going to be using Bitcoin as a treasury reserve asset and daily currency. And it's going to happen like really fast. But, obviously now it's 2024 and Bitcoin is still a treasury reserve asset for a very, very small percentage of the world. And it's definitely by no means a daily currency that's accepted at, Starbucks, Walmart, or whatever, or your local grocery store, or, any sort of small business. And maybe that will be the way that Bitcoin continues to progress for the next couple decades. Like, I like to think I'm pro America and I'm pro Bitcoin in the sense that maybe the dollar and Bitcoin are actually like in a very nice symbiotic relationship, where I think of the dollar as debt-based money. And when you have debt-based money, you need good collateral within the system to kind of keep the dollar system going. And right now, that good collateral, quote unquote, is things like real estate or just the government borrowing money, like the government's tax receipts, or high quality businesses, like businesses in the S&P 500, smaller businesses, etc. And I feel like adding Bitcoin into that collateral mix and enabling more dollars to effectively get created using Bitcoin as collateral is probably going to be something that becomes a very, very big industry over time. And it could affect, in a way, like strengthen the dollar system, as long as some people still want to hold dollars. And I think some people like still will want to hold dollars, like especially like short-term dollars. If Bitcoin continues to be extremely volatile, which I kind of expect it to be for probably, at least another decade, then it kind of does make sense to hold enough dollars in the short term to make sure you can meet your short-term liabilities, whether that's like your mortgage payment, your rent, or if you own a building, you might have a mortgage payment on that or some sort of loan that you've taken out. And so like there might always be a case to hold at least a little bit of short-term dollars to meet your short-term liabilities. And then after that, you hold real assets, and Bitcoin might be the best real asset for a very long time horizon. And in a way, like that's already kind of what has happened like over the last 50 plus years with the dollar system. Like anyone that has a serious amount of wealth, they're not just sitting on cash under their mattress. Like they're also not sitting with cash in a checking or savings account. Like they've invested that wealth into the S&P 500, into real estate, into gold, into Bitcoin to some extent, if they're really wealthy or they're a Bitcoiner. And I think that like that's going to probably continue happening, where most wealthy people, again, just won't hold many dollars. Like that's not changing from what has been the case for the last 50 plus years. Everyone kind of knows you shouldn't hold a lot of dollars. You'll hold some still for, short-term liabilities, and you want to minimize volatility. But for your long-term wealth, it just makes a lot of sense to hold, something like Bitcoin. Yeah, that's kind of how I think it might play out. I think Saylor's perspective is probably like, he probably thinks that way as well. And I'm sure to some extent, like he obviously is recognizing the idea that if you go out there and you say hyperbitcoinization is happening tomorrow, this is extremely disruptive to world governments, fiat money, the US dollar, then he's obviously going to have a pretty big target on his back, and may not be able to do exactly what he's doing. And it's also like maybe that happens, but I think his perspective is like that is like years and years still probably away. And there's no guarantee that that is exactly how this is going to play out. Maybe Bitcoin becomes a $20 trillion or $100 trillion asset, or $300 trillion asset, just like real estate. And like we're kind of like, the dollar still exists despite the fact that real estate is worth $300 trillion. So it's like maybe Bitcoin just becomes the same thing, and dollars are used for like short-term accounting and tax revenues. And like everyone that holds Bitcoin makes a lot of money. The United States remains the global power, which is probably good for the world, rather than like another nation emerging as the global power or like pure chaos throughout the world. And so I think his perspective is like, let's not rock the boat. Like, let's take it day by day. Like there's a very, very high probability in his mind, in my mind too, that Bitcoin at the very least becomes digital gold. Once Bitcoin 15x's from where it is today, or 20x's from where it is today, and becomes digital gold, then Bitcoiners will have significantly more power than we have today. We'll probably have like more visibility into like how this world is actually playing out, and how this is disrupting, governments or fiat money or other things. And then it's going to be a lot harder to clamp down on because it's so much bigger than it is today. So I think he's playing it one step at a time, which I think is the right thing to do. And he's also correct in the sense that like there's no point of saying hyper-Bitcoinization, or the dollar is going to die tomorrow, because we don't know if that's the case. It may not. That may be wrong.
And that makes the case in a way, in an indirect way, for stablecoins, right? If you're going to have these fiat currencies that are going to exist, I mean, let's be logical in the sense that our government's going to just willingly give away that ability to have their own currencies, whether they're going to print it or not. That's that's another fight for another day. But to have their own currency, it just feels like we're going to enter that world. Maybe that's like you said with Saylor, So what do you think in the terms of like the stable coins and maybe the role that that'll play with relationship to Bitcoin?
Yeah, it's a great question, because it's like, if you thought hyper-Bitcoinization may be the wrong word I'm using here, in the sense that like Bitcoin can go up a lot and that doesn't mean the dollar's going to disappear. So stable coins, it's like Bitcoin's gone up a ton over the last, few years, yet the market cap of Tether and like USDC has also gone up a ton ever since, the last 5 years or so. And so it's like, that's kind of actually evidence to the argument that we were making right there, is like Bitcoin is honestly like strengthening the dollar, and it's adding demand for dollars for people using these stable coins in, Africa or Asia or wherever, and then also using it as collateral for borrowing, more money to buy Bitcoin, or, doing whatever they want with the stable coins. I think the market is going to continue to get bigger and bigger. And it's interesting seeing people like Howard Lutnick, who's I forgot exactly what company he works for, but basically he works for the company that supposedly holds T-bills, which are like the dollars that back Tether. And he's going out on TV and saying like, hey, like we hold Tether's dollars. Tether has all of the money. And like, it's just crazy to think how far we've come, because like years back, people would be like, Tether is, a fraud. Like they don't have the dollars. Like it's all made up. Like this is, and people would say like, this is why Bitcoin is going up, because they're printing these fake dollars and buying Bitcoin. And for some reason, people are still holding the fake Tethers. But in reality, like whether that happened or it didn't happen, it's pretty clear at this point that like Tether is like a real thing, and it has product market fit for people using it around the world. And it's getting bigger and bigger, whether it's Tether, USDC, or other stable coins. So to me, it seems like it's going to get bigger and bigger. And I think probably like the US government is taking note of it, and they like this. Like they want someone around the world holding their bags for the debt that they're issuing. They need someone to buy this debt and to hold it in the form of something like a Tether stablecoin, so they can issue more debt and effectively run a massive $1 trillion deficit. So I would imagine like Tether is going to get bigger and bigger, and it's probably just something that continues to occur over time.
What are your thoughts in just that corporate level, whether it's Saylor showing the way with being a treasury reserve asset, Fold now, there's all these companies. I mean, Unchained, what you guys are doing, helping, as you made me think of too earlier, with lending, right? And some things like that. So I'd love for you to kind of touch on what you're seeing just at a corporate level, and just your thoughts on what some of these companies are doing with being a treasury reserve asset. If you want the answer to that question right there, and you like that spicy clip, check it out here. Come on, we'll see you in there. But if you want the full interview in its entirety, all the spicy clips put together, and you're not going to want to miss it, believe me, then check that out here. Come on, we'll see you in there. Do it.